So what happens to your 401k the day you retire? Your 401k doesn't just disappear. It doesn't automatically get mailed to you, and it doesn't automatically become an IRA. But something important does change. You're no longer in the accumulation phase. You're moving into the distribution phase where the decisions you make with that account can have a much bigger effect on the rest of your retirement. I'm Chris from First Shelbourne, an investment advisory firm here in Comac, New York. I work with many retiring police officers, teachers, firefighters, correctional officers, and other civil service employees who have spent decades building money in a 401k, 403b, or 457 plan. Now, I'm also a retired police officer myself, so I understand the pain points of many civil service individuals. This video is for educational purposes only. It isn't individualized investment, legal, or tax advice. Always consider your own circumstances before making financial decisions. So what actually happens to your 401k when you retire, and what choices do you have? First, generally speaking, the money stays right where it is until you decide to do what you want with it. Your employer's plan administrator will usually send you information explaining your available options, and depending on the plan and your balance, you may be able to leave the money in the plan, take withdrawals, move it to another employer plan if you go back to work, cash it out, or roll it into an IRA. Now, for many people, doing nothing immediately can be perfectly reasonable. Retirement's a big transition. You may be dealing with pension paperwork, health insurance, Medicare decisions, unused sick payouts, Social Security, or simply getting used to not going to work every morning. You don't need to make every financial decision in the first week, but you also don't want to ignore a large retirement account indefinitely. So let's walk through some of the main options. The first option is to leave the money in your former employer's 401k. That may make sense if the plan has very low costs, strong investment choices, good service, or protections that are valuable to you. Now, for many people, doing nothing immediately can be perfectly reasonable, and for police officers and other qualifying public safety employees, there's an especially important rule to understand. If you separate from service in or after the year you reach age 50, or under current rules, after completing 25 years of service under the plan, whichever comes first, you may be able to take distributions from that governmental employer plan without the usual 10% early withdrawal penalty. Now, that doesn't mean that the withdrawal is tax-free, but it does mean that before rolling money into an IRA, an early retiree should first determine whether they'll need access to that account before age 59 and a half. A full rollover may eliminate access to that specific plan exception. Now, the second option is to take money as a cash distribution. This is usually the option that people need to think about very carefully. A traditional 401k distribution is generally taxable income, so if you're under age 59 and a half, there may also be an additional 10% tax on top of that. So if you don't need the money, do not take this huge tax hit. In other words, taking a large 401k balance as a check is usually not the same thing as moving your money. It can create a substantial tax bill. Now, the third option is to roll the money directly into an IRA. A direct rollover means the money goes from the old 401k custodian into a new IRA custodian without coming through your personal checking account. And done properly, this generally avoids current taxation on the amount moved. Most retirement plan distributions can be rolled over. And the fourth option, if you continue working somewhere else, maybe you can move the money into a new employer's retirement plan, assuming that that plan accepts rollovers. There isn't one right answer for everyone. Now, during your career, you were probably making regular contributions every paycheck. The market went down, but you kept buying. The market went up, and you kept buying. You had time, income, and new contributions working in your favor. Now, that can paper over a lot of mistakes. You may have had a portfolio that was too aggressive, too conservative, too concentrated, or simply not organized very well. But as long as you keep adding money, and you have years ahead of you, the impact of those mistakes might not have been obvious. Now, retirement is different. You may be taking money out rather than putting money in. If the market drops and you need to sell investments to fund living expenses, you're not just watching a number on a statement go down. you may be selling shares at depressed values. Now, that's what makes the first several years of retirement so important. A retiree with a poorly designed portfolio may be forced to sell during a market decline, reducing the amount left to recover when markets eventually improve. It doesn't mean you should try to predict the next market decline. Nobody could do that consistently. It means that your investments, cash reserves, income needs, taxes, and withdrawal plan need to work together before the difficult market arrives. Now, a good retirement portfolio isn't just a collection of funds. It's a plan for how you'll live off that money. For many retirees, rolling an old 401k into an IRA can create more flexibility. Employer plans can be okay, but they often offer a limited menu of investments. An IRA may give you a broader range of low-cost diversified ETFs, mutual funds, specific bond ETFs with specific duration risk, cash options, and other tools that can be used to build a portfolio around your actual retirement needs. Now, this doesn't mean more choices are automatically better. Too many choices can create confusion. But a well-designed IRA can make it easier to organize your investments, coordinate accounts between spouses, and manage withdrawals. A roll of IRA can also make something called a Roth conversion easier to consider. A Roth conversion means moving some money from a traditional pre-tax IRA into a Roth IRA. Now, you pay ordinary income tax on the amount converted in the year of the conversion. In exchange, future qualified Roth withdrawals and gains can be tax-free, assuming that the rules are met. Now, this isn't something to do blindly. The tax bill matters. Your income filing status, pensions, Social Security, and Medicare situation all matter. But the years after retirement and before required minimum distributions begin can sometimes create a planning window. A person may have stopped earning a salary but not yet started all sources of retirement income. So in some situations, that may be a time to evaluate partial Roth conversions rather than waiting until later. Now, Roth IRAs don't have required minimum distributions, and traditional 401ks and traditional IRAs generally do have RMD rules. So I sometimes describe a very large traditional 401k as a potential future tax bomb, not because having a large account is a bad thing. It's a good problem to have. But the money in a traditional 401k has never been taxed. So eventually, required minimum distributions can force taxable income out of the account, whether you need the income or not. Now, if you have a pension, Social Security, investment income, and then large RMDs on top of that, your taxable income may be higher than you expected. And that could also affect something called Medicare premiums. Now, Medicare looks at a version of your income called modified adjusted gross income to determine whether you may owe an income-related monthly adjustment amount, commonly called IRMAA. It's not a penalty, it's an income-based surcharge, but it's another reason tax planning matters in retirement. Now, for 2026 Medicare premiums, IRMAA begins when Medicare modified adjusted gross income exceeds $109,000 for an individual or $218,000 for a married couple filing jointly. So if you're single, instead of having a $200 a month Medicare payment, it could jump to over $500 or $800 a month. This is something that completely blindsides individuals in retirement as they start taking RMDs from a 401k. Now, in this instance, you may want to think really hard about the benefits of doing a rollover and then slowly converting to a Roth IRA if this suits your personal situation. And that acquaintance who you took retirement advice from, who told you that you don't need an advisor or that paying for advice is a waste of money, they're likely nowhere to be found while you're stuck potentially paying thousands more per year. So be careful about taking advice from individuals in a break room. Now, some people are absolutely capable of managing their own retirement investments. If you're very astute, understand investing, can stay disciplined in difficult markets, understand tax rules, and have the time to keep up with it, managing your own money can be appropriate. But retirement planning is different from casually picking a few funds in a 401k while you're working. It's a little like a hobbyist electrician deciding to replace the entire electrical panel in their home because they watched a few YouTube videos over the weekend. They may be intelligent, they may be handy, but there's a big difference between changing a light fixture and taking responsibility for the whole system. That's where an advisor can be valuable, not as someone who predicts the market, but as a professional helping you navigate the ship. An advisor can help coordinate your investments, withdrawal strategy, taxes, Roth conversions, beneficiary designations, and Medicare planning, pension decisions, and questions that come up when markets get difficult. Now, at the end of a long bull market, there's often a friend, relative, coworker who seems very confident. They'll tell you exactly what you should buy, sell, or move. They may have done well for a while, and they may sincerely believe they have it figured out. But when markets fall and real money is on the line, those people are often nowhere to be found. They don't have to live with the consequences of the advice they gave you. Now, before you act on anyone's financial opinion, ask yourself, is the financial condition of this person giving me this advice one I would want for myself? It's not about judging people. It's about being thoughtful about who you trust with decisions that may affect the rest of your life. Now, when you retire, your 401k becomes more than a retirement account. It becomes part of the income tax and investment system that supports your next chapter. Take your time, understand your options, don't make a rushed decision because someone told you that you have to. And if you find these conversations helpful, subscribe to the channel. I'll keep talking about retirement, investing, taxes, and the questions that can help you make more informed decisions. To contact me, feel free to visit me over at firstshelbourne.com. Everyone take care. Have a great day.